China might be testing nuclear weapons. What happens if Kim Jong-Un dies? Hong Kong is under attack. That and more on this week's China News headlines. This is China Uncensored. I'm Chris Chappell. China may be conducting secret nuclear tests. That's according to a new report from the U.S. government. There's an international agreement called the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty. China, the U.S., and 182 other countries have signed it. But China may have violated the treaty by testing nuclear weapons. This Wall Street Journal article shows the Chinese nuclear testing site called LOPNUR. The U.S. government believes there are nuclear tests going on there that violate the treaty. The accusations originally came from the State Department report, which says China maintained a high level of activity at its LOPNUR nuclear weapons test site throughout 2019. While it offers no actual proof of nuclear testing, it does raise concerns regarding China's adherence to the zero-yield standard adhered to by the United States, the United Kingdom, and France. Of course, China completely denies it.
China will never accept the accusations made by the U.S. and strongly opposes them.
But here's the funny thing. China could be testing nukes, but not actually violating the Nuclear Test Ban Treaty. Because while China signed the treaty in 1996, they still haven't ratified it. So technically, they're not bound by it. That being said, the U.S. has also signed it, but not ratified it. Both the U.S. and China say they're still abiding by the treaty, even though they don't have to because they didn't ratify it. But they're not alone. In fact, the treaty isn't even legally in force because not enough nations have ratified it. So there's no point in arguing over a treaty that the US and China technically never agreed to. They can't do anything anyway because not enough countries have technically agreed to it. I mean, the US has enough trouble getting the Chinese Communist Party to make good on the things it has agreed to. And by the way, if you're interested in a look at American issues, we have a whole show dedicated to it. It's called America Uncovered. Subscribe on YouTube, you'll love it. Speaking of secret nuclear testing, North Korea. And a real bomb has just dropped. Kim Jong-un may be dying. According to this CNN report, the North Korean leader is in grave danger after surgery.
U.S. intelligence reporting indicates Kim recently underwent cardiovascular surgery. Some officials saying the intelligence suggests he may be incapacitated.
A source was quoted as saying Kim had been struggling with cardiovascular problems since last August, which worsened after repeated visits to the country's sacred mountain, Mount Paektu.
What? Are you telling me that this young man had heart problems after climbing a mountain? I mean, he is in shape. And that shape is a circle. So what do we know? First, that President Trump would be heartbroken.
Oh, I've had a very good relationship with him. I wouldn't, I can only say this, I wish him well.
Second, the death of Kim Jong-un could be catastrophic for China. The collapse of the Kim regime could send a wave of refugees flooding into China. Bad under any circumstance, but especially bad when there's a deadly pandemic still going around. That's why some experts call it China's worst nightmare. On the other hand, Kim Jong-un might be fine. President Trump, who is well known for reining in exaggerated claims, said this.
Nobody's confirmed that. It was CNN that came out, so when CNN comes out with a report, I don't place too much credence in it.
On top of dealing with North Korea and obviously the deadly CCP virus, the Chinese Communist Party still seems to have time for other activities, like harassing Taiwan with fighter jets, or using ethnic minorities as slaves to restart its economy. And now, attacking the people of Hong Kong. Again. Beijing has once again started pushing so-called national security in response to foreign forces trying to interfere in Hong Kong. Because the only thing that could possibly make Hong Kongers not love the Communist Party is hostile foreign forces. Or maybe it's how the police arrested 15 Hong Kong pro-democracy figures last week. If the Communist Party was hoping everyone would be too distracted by the coronavirus to notice, they were wrong. But that won't stop the Communist Party from continuing to dismantle the one country, two systems policy that is supposed to give Hong Kong autonomy. Also, last week, the China Liaison Office, China's top office in Hong Kong, announced that they aren't restricted by the Basic Law, which is Hong Kong's constitution. So things are not going well for Hong Kong. Dr. Anthony Fauci, one of the leaders of the U.S.'s coronavirus response team, is for some reason questioning China's coronavirus numbers.
I think any of us who have been dealing with this now for the last few months don't feel confident at all that we have all of the data of the originally infected individuals, how long there were people in the circulation, or even now, how many deaths there really are in China. That number is really rather a low number. That number surprises me that that number is so low.
Well, yeah, if you look at the actual numbers they're reporting, it doesn't make sense. But if you look at this face, I mean, how can a face like that lie to you? The Chinese Communist Party has been doing its best to make the world forget that the CCP virus was their fault. Now, Chinese state-run media are floating the theory that maybe the coronavirus didn't come from Wuhan because it may have multiple birthplaces around the globe. Yes, that is a great theory, if you completely ignore science. Fortunately, the rest of the world isn't buying it. Missouri is suing China over the coronavirus. So is Mississippi. Thousands of Americans in Florida have signed a class action lawsuit. China's foreign ministry has called these lawsuits frivolous because a U.S. court has no jurisdiction over the Chinese government. However, this lawsuit, filed with a Chinese court against the U.S. government for China bashing, that's not frivolous, it's totally justified. But it's not just the U.S. suing China. A British think tank says that lawsuits against China over its handling of COVID-19 could total at least $4 trillion from just the G7 countries. And a German tabloid said China is endangering the world and owes reparations of $160 billion. Oh, Germany, you should know better. Don't demand reparations. It never turns out well. So it might surprise you to learn that Americans hold an increasingly negative view of China. Don't worry, the Communist Party knows just what to do. Spread propaganda. U.S. officials say Chinese agents were responsible for spreading panic in the U.S. with fake text messages. They apparently didn't create the fake messages, but did help push them out. The fake messages claimed that Trump was about to lock down the United States under martial law. Obviously, that never happened. Chinese state-run media have supplemented the martial law rumors with their own blatant lies, like that the U.S. military was really behind the coronavirus epidemic, or that Trump is more to blame for the coronavirus than the WHO or China. Oh wait, that wasn't Chinese state-run media, it was Western media. This is Chinese state-run media. Sorry for the confusion. But just in case you thought we'd learned something from the CCP virus, we haven't. A Chinese drone company that's been accused of spying on U.S. citizens has donated drones to American police.
The drones donated by DJI, a Chinese company, have gone to 43 agencies in 22 states, all to help enforce social distancing rules. Failure to comply could lead to a summons or a $1,000 fine.
If these drones save one life, it is clearly worth the activity and the information that the drones are sending.
Yes, what would be the problem with states taking drones from DJI, the same Chinese company that the U.S. government believes is targeting government and private entities to expand its ability to collect and exploit sensitive U.S. data? There's a dangerous virus going around, but it's not the coronavirus, it's stupidity. You know, it's been a while since we talked about the ongoing factional power struggle within the Chinese Communist Party, but there's been an update. A top public security official is now being investigated for serious violations of party discipline. Sun Lijun was a vice minister within China's Ministry of Public Security. That means he was basically in charge of China's police and had a key role in the coronavirus response. But he isn't the only one. As the virus continues to spread in China, 18 officials in northern China have been purged. And for clarity, when Chinese Communist Party officials get punished for doing something bad, keep in mind that they're usually not much worse than the party officials who are carrying out the punishment. I'd call that a power struggle. But despite all of the Communist Party's internal challenges, they're still sending aid to other countries to help with the CCP virus they caused. Sometimes they take impressive photos in front of the piles and piles of aid, like here in Venezuela. Other times, it's a little less impressive. On April 15th, Chinese officials arrived in war-torn Syria to deliver boxes of COVID-19 test kits. And when I say boxes, plural, I mean it. There were 2 boxes. There were more officials there for the photo op than there were boxes of aid. Well, that's awkward. And finally, some good news from China. Citizen journalist Li Zihua, who had disappeared for almost 2 months after being chased by Wuhan police, has reappeared. It turns out he was put in quarantine by the police. He had to give up his electronics, but he was served 3 meals a day, monitored by security guards, and able to watch state broadcaster CCTV's evening newscast. So, no internet or communication with the outside world, and only able to watch Chinese state-run media. That is truly the worst quarantine. After being released from this long quarantine, Li was allowed to go home. This week, he released a video on his YouTube channel in which he thanks the police for taking good care of him. But he also ended the video by quoting a line from a Confucian text about staying true to one's beliefs. The human heart is unpredictable, restless. Its affinity to what is right is small. Be discriminating, be uniform so that you may hold fast. Clearly hoping that people can read between the lines there. 2 other citizen journalists, Shen Qiushi and Fang Bin, are still missing. Next, I'll answer a question from a member of the China Uncensored 50 Cent Army. Since YouTube has been demonetizing a lot of our videos, the China Uncensored 50 Cent Army has stepped up. They're viewers like you who help us keep up the fight of truthful, uncensored information by supporting China Uncensored through the crowdfunding website Patreon. Today's question comes from Zhou Rui. China lied, people died. Do you embrace this, or do you consider the use of the word China in this context to imply the people of China too? Maybe CCP lied, people died is more appropriate. Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. Yeah, I kind of feel that phrase is like calling the coronavirus the Chinese virus. It is important to hold the Chinese Communist Party accountable for its lies and cover-up, and to distinguish the CCP from the Chinese people and the Chinese nation. Saying China lied, people died has a nice cadence to it, but it's not really accurate. China has existed for thousands of years and had a long and beautiful culture that actually valued and respected life. The Chinese Communist Party, on the other hand, is a Marxist regime that has taken over the country and kills people with impunity. Someday, when the party is over, China will still be there. So will the Chinese people. It's just the CCP virus that will be gone. Thanks for your question, Joe. If you'd like to hear your question answered on the show, join the China Uncensored 50 Cent Army over at patreon.com/China Uncensored. Now, if you like hearing about all the ways China is affecting you, you're probably subscribed to China Uncensored. But did you know YouTube has been secretly unsubscribing people? They're also not sending out notifications to everyone about new episodes. So make sure you subscribe, smash that like button, and share our episodes. Once again, I'm Chris Chappell. See you next time.